So you're wondering what it's like to live in Bellingham, Washington. Well, as someone who has lived here for more than 40 years, essentially my whole life, I feel well qualified to speak on the subject, and that's exactly what we're going to cover in this video. We're going to get started right now. From my earliest childhood memories to now raising a family here in this area on my own, Bellingham has been the backdrop for nearly all of my life. I was born at St. Joseph's Hospital here in Bellingham in October of 1983, so not just 40 years that I've been here, but actually 41 and counting. You know, in this video, I want to do something a little bit different. Rather than kind of hit you with the stereotypical facts and figures that we include in some of these videos, such as, cost of living, comparing that to other areas, talking about the weather and our summer temps and our winter temps and some of the things that go on, I want to break this video down into 4 main categories. Those categories are: what keeps me here, how has Bellingham changed over the time that I've lived here, what's challenging about living in this area, and last but not least, why I stay. More of a personal perspective, more of, my thoughts and feelings as opposed to, again, facts and figures. You might like it, you might not. I would love your comments and feedback below, but let's dive in. What keeps me here? All right, so diving into category number 1, what keeps me here? Now, by no means is this list comprehensive, but I've broken it down into 3 main categories, 3 main segments that I'll share with you. But please know that the reasons are vast and varied, and there's no way that I could cover all of them in a video like this. But the first thing on my list is community, friendships, and local values. So my wife is actually a lifelong resident of Bellingham and Whatcom County as well. Both of us are very fortunate to have many friendships that span 20 to 30 plus years. In fact, some of my first and earliest friendships that are still maintained today go all the way back to when I was 5 years old and started playing soccer in Bellingham. So been very fortunate to have a big community here in terms of friends, relationships, people to lean on, people to help, people to be in community with, and that's a big piece of the puzzle when it comes to what keeps us here. There's also just a shared value system that's here with regard to appreciation for the outdoors, taking care of our community, being good stewards of the environment. And so it's things like these friendships and these local values that are first and foremost as to why we have not explored the move to other areas, when perhaps something like the weather might suggest that's, in fact, one of the biggest reasons I feel like people will often leave is that they're just tired of dealing with the rain. So number 1 on the list within this category, community, friendships, and local values. Number 2 is the natural beauty of the area. If you've watched any of my other videos, you've heard me talk about Mount Baker, you've heard me talk about Bellingham Bay, you've heard me talk about the Chuckanut Trail system, about Lake Padden, about Boulevard Park. The list goes on. There's so many amazing, beautiful things that we get to enjoy here in Bellingham and the surrounding areas that are all accessible either right outside our back door or maybe within an hour to an hour and a half drive away. So being able to live in this place, to have these views, to enjoy the outdoors in the way that we do, it's a massive benefit to living here in Bellingham and the surrounding area, and one of the big things that we really enjoy and appreciate. Number 3 is quality of life. As I've talked about in other videos, the size of Bellingham, the population of Bellingham is approximately 90,000 people. The county as a whole being approximately 230,000 people. And so it's this really nice balance in terms of quality of life where it's not so much hustle and bustle. It's not sleepy, quiet, nothing going on. It's kind of right there in the middle. We've got access to all of the main amenities that we would like to have access to on a regular basis, up to and including entertainment. And if and when we need to venture out a bit further to get to a bigger city, such as Vancouver, such as Seattle, for sporting events, for major concert venues, well, of course, those things are close by. But we get all the benefits of living in a place that's big enough to have access to all of the amenities that we would like to enjoy on a regular basis without having to deal with some of the issues that come along with having a higher density of population in a bigger city. Hey, if this is your first time to the channel, we encourage you to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications so you can keep up on all the content that we're releasing about Bellingham, about Whatcom County, and all the great things that are going on here in this area. My name is Jeff Engen. I'm with MJB Real Estate Group here in Bellingham, and every day we get calls, texts, and emails from people just like you considering a move to this area, and we absolutely love it. So whether you're thinking about moving tomorrow, 10 months from now, sometime in between, we encourage you to reach out. All of our contact information can be found below, and we are standing by and ready to help. I also want to briefly draw your attention to the free relocation guide that we've put together for you. You can download that via the link on the screen or the link below to help you to continue to explore Bellingham and consider if this might be the right spot for you. But for now, let's get back to talking about what it's like to live here in Bellingham. Category number 2, how has Bellingham changed over the last 40 years? Well, as you might imagine, it's changed a lot. So 40 years ago, the population of Bellingham was probably hovering just below 50,000. As I shared moments ago, it's now north of 90,000. So the population is not quite, but nearly doubled and will double over the course of the coming years compared to what it was 40 years ago. This has, of course, resulted in all sorts of changes throughout the community, and I've broken them down into a few different categories. So from an infrastructure and development perspective, we've seen the growth of neighborhoods. One such neighborhood that you've maybe heard me talk about in other videos is Cordata. Cordata has long been home to Whatcom Community College. Now, when I was a kid, my mom actually worked in a building just adjacent to the community college there, and it was a very small campus. Over the years, the campus has grown dramatically. They've added student housing. This has brought in the addition of a lot of retail there locally in that area as well. And then Cordata is home to all sorts of 55 plus communities, condos, townhomes, new single family homes. It's one of the areas where Bellingham has seen and continues to see the most growth and expansion over these last years. We've also got the addition, for example, of Cordata Park, which you've maybe heard me talk about in other videos, a phenomenal park there in the Cordata area with a kids' play structure, pickleball courts, basketball courts, bike track, a skateboard area, a parkour area. It's a phenomenal park, also great trails for walking, running there throughout the area. So Cordata is one of the biggest areas that we've seen a lot of improvement. Number 2, within this kind of infrastructure category is the improvement of Bellingham International Airport. So even going back to my early 20s when I was traveling a fair amount for work in another industry, you used to check in, go through security in one building, then walk outside to what we call a portable building, effectively a temporary building, and that was your gate to then go get on your flight. Since that time, Bellingham has built a beautiful airport facility. There's 3, if not 4 gates. There's a restaurant, a gift shop, coffee shop. It's a great facility with flights going out daily, mainly to Seattle, one of the other providers that services that airport, offering some direct flights to places like Phoenix, Arizona, different places in California, what have you. Another massive development that's occurred more recently, but still in the last, let's say, some odd 5 to 10 years, is this improvement effort that's unfolding down on the Bellingham waterfront. So you had the Georgia Pacific pulp mill that was down there on the waterfront that has since been completely removed, with exception to some of the remnants that were intentionally left behind from the facility, and that is being replaced by all sorts of condos, the bicycle pump track, and a container village where Colshan Brewing has their 3rd location. A lot of cool stuff going on down there at the Bellingham waterfront. In regard to economic and commercial changes that we've seen over the years, Bellis Fair Mall opened in 1988. Now, this was the first time that Bellingham had a mall, and it really changed the landscape for what retail looked like here in the area. It used to be that retail was largely focused in the core downtown area, and that you would go from store to store individually. Well, the addition of Bellis Fair Mall changed that dramatically, with a lot of stores leaving the downtown area to go to the mall, a lot of bigger chain-like stores coming to the area that we had not had before. And of course, over the years, we've seen a massive increase in breweries here in the area. Aslan, Stemma, Colshan, Wander, Stone's Throw, Structures, Boundary Bay. There's just a long list of fantastic breweries here in the area. There's a host of new coffee shops, independent coffee shops all throughout the area. There's been a lot of growth in terms of economic growth and changes there as well. Also seen a lot improve in the way of community and education. So Western Washington University has added a number of programs, has expanded its facilities, and has seen tremendous growth over the course of my lifetime. The healthcare sector has also grown tremendously. So St. Joseph's Hospital, where I was born, Peace Health, which is the entity that oversees and operates that hospital, has become one of the key providers for the region. So not just in Bellingham here, but people traveling from outside of the area to receive services there at St. Joe's and through Peace Health. We've seen phenomenal growth in parks and outdoor recreation. We've had the addition of Cordata Park, Squalicum Park, other green spaces that have been developed in the area. Galbraith Mountain, world-class mountain biking, has really taken on a life of its own over the course of the last even 10 to 15 years, and just recreational growth and outdoor activities here in the area with hiking, mountain biking, kayaking. All of these things have really grown in popularity and prominence here in our area and become a part of our culture. There's been massive improvements to sustainability initiatives here in the area. There's an emphasis on renewable energy, environmental conservation, and sustainable development. And there's programs that are focused on zero waste, carbon neutrality, all that good stuff. Now, of course, with all of these changes and with all of this growth, occasionally things are not so favorable, one of which is the cost of living. So the cost of living in Bellingham has, of course, increased dramatically over the course of my lifetime and is higher than the national average by a stretch. Of course, it's all relative to where you're considering relocating from if you're thinking about this area, but the cost of living has increased dramatically. We've also seen an increase in, of course, the nearly doubling in population size, a massive increase in terms of traffic, and it's beginning really at the point where we are now, especially during rush hours and especially in that kind of 4 to 5 o'clock hour in the evening, to consistently produce slowdowns on I-5 because we're dealing with lengths of on-ramps and off-ramps that are insufficient for the amount of traffic that is currently traveling those roads in those peak travel times. So there are challenges, there are some negative things that have come with all of these other positive things that I shared in terms of growth, but those are things that the city is working on as we speak. There's also been a change with regards to the face of industry that's here in the area. And so as I mentioned earlier, talked about the closure of the Georgia Pacific plant and facility there on the Bellingham waterfront and a shift towards tech and innovation. We've also seen a big increase in tourism here in Bellingham, the San Juans, Mount Baker, the Chuckanut area. So that's been a big change and a big improvement for us as well. Next on the list, we're talking a little bit about what's challenging about living in Bellingham at present, what things have changed over this 40-year period of time that has created challenges as people continue to live or want to live here in this area. Number one on the list, we talked about this just moments ago in the previous segment, but it's the cost of living. So we've seen a sharp and dramatic increase in home values, property values here in Bellingham over the course of the last few years. Just the other night, there was a town hall, a city council meeting that was focused around the subject of property taxes here in the area and a vote that was put in place. We're talking about increasing property taxes by 11% over the next 2 years. A lot of people very unhappy about that. There are limited career opportunities. This kind of feeds number one on the list. So with limited career opportunities, especially a lot of Western Washington University graduates who would like to put down roots here, who would like to stay, they have a hard time finding employment, particularly at a level that will afford them the opportunity to then be, at some point in the future, a home buyer here in this area. Our median home sales price in Bellingham is hovering right around $620,000 at present, and that is a challenging endeavor, a challenging benchmark for a lot of first-time home buyers. So number one, rising costs of living. Number two, limited job opportunities, which again kind of go hand in hand. We talked a little bit about the traffic issues in the previous segment, but infrastructure and traffic is number three. We're not really meant to talk a lot about it in the real estate space, but there is a homelessness and a social issues impact and challenge that's being felt here in Bellingham, as is the case in much of the Pacific Northwest, certainly areas like Seattle, Portland, and really just about every major metropolitan area throughout the country. But that is a subject of conversation. Number five on the list within this category is the weather. So a lot of people, again, it's not just the fact that, hey, it's gray, it's drizzly, it's rainy, and I would rather that it be sunny. There are people who actually experience what is called seasonal affective disorder, where they actually have a depressive feeling, a depressive state that develops from the lack of exposure to sun. And that is a reason that particularly during the fall and winter months, when the days are short, the skies are often gray, it's challenging for people to continue to live here. Number six, there's these concerns over growth and development. There's a lot of people that have been here for a long, long time who really don't necessarily appreciate or approve of the direction that Bellingham is headed in terms of all of this growth, in terms of all of this infrastructure. Sometimes people have a difficult time with change. They like things the way that they were. They want to keep them the same. They don't want to see this continued growth, continued progress, continued infrastructure improvement, increase in population size. So that is something that for some people makes it difficult to be here. And last on the list, number seven within this category, I would say that limited access to nightlife and entertainment is something that a lot of people talk about here in this area. So as I've shared in this video just briefly, and as I've talked about in other videos, you've got Vancouver, BC to the north, about an hour away. depending, of course, on your time at the border. You've got Seattle about 90 miles to the south, typically an hour to an hour and a half, 2-hour trip in either direction. And so you can relatively quickly and relatively easily get access to some of these major sporting events, major concert venues. So if and when the mood strikes or you're interested in taking in some bigger level entertainment and nightlife, then those things are close by, but they're typically not available to you immediately out your back door. So that brings us to category number 4, which is why do I continue to stay? And over the course of living in Bellingham for 40 years, many people have asked, why is it that you stay in this area? And again, as I shared, really kind of a recap of segment number 1 of this video. It's the community, it's the natural beauty, it's the access to nature. It's all of the things that we get to enjoy about living in this area with a lot of benefit and really in the grand scheme of things, very little detriment. The things that maybe get to me and that I would change if I could, for example, the winter months in terms of the amount of sun, the temperatures, all that stuff, it really pales in comparison to when we do get to experience the beauty of summer, where we can be outside enjoying these activities year-round as long as we dress appropriately. And so again, it's the friendships, it's the community, it's the natural beauty. Is Bellingham perfect? Absolutely not. Is any place perfect? I don't think so. And so again, as I traveled all over the country and saw all of these beautiful, amazing places, there's plenty of places around the US that I would like to continue to visit, to explore, to vacation. But when it's all said and done, Bellingham is the spot that feels like home and the spot that will continue to be home for myself and for my family. Hey, as always, I hope this video has been helpful to you. As I shared earlier, would love your constructive criticism. Was this helpful? Was it not? Appreciate everyone who takes the time to watch and comment. I want to encourage you one last time to like, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications so you can keep up on all the content we're releasing, and remind you one more time that you can download that free relocation guide via the link on the screen or the link down below. We are standing by, ready to help. Reach out anytime with questions, concerns, interests in the area. We're here for you. Appreciate you taking the time to watch this video, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.